Hey, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of 15 for 15. And again, if you have not watched any of the other episodes, please make sure that you go do that, but only after you have spent some time watching this one. I have somebody very special with me today on this great episode of episode 8. And I just feel honored to be able to share him with you because this young man has always had a lot of depth in him. Even at the age of 17 and 18, when I first met him, he always had a lot of depth in him. And that is in James Jones, which we call him Jay. So I'm going to bring him in real quick. But anybody that knows anything about football in the state of South Carolina, I don't know how I got this guy because he comes from Burns High School, which that is like royalty high school football in the state of South Carolina. But I was able to get him on a track and field scholarship to USC Upstate, which was so cool because he was a state champion, of course, in football, but also in track and field, and was a dynamic and still is a very dynamic hurdler, very mature young man. So I want to share him with you now. So I'm bringing in James with us now. Hey, hey.
How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
My guy still got that deep voice. I love it.
Oh,
How are you? What's happening?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long time. It's been long.
Hey,
Honestly, yeah, things are good. I'm in San Francisco, California right now. Currently I'm still waking up as an athlete. But I'm also coaching and personal training as well. It's definitely a nice little mix of things.
absolutely. Well, look, we're gonna jump in. Man, thank you for your time because I know if we're recording this right now, we're on about a 3 hour difference. So I love it. You're all the way in San Francisco, so that is really, really cool. So I want to jump in to kind of see what kind of happened. So let's take it back a couple years to 2015 where I get the opportunity to recruit and ultimately sign the state champion in the 110 hurdles, and I was just so floored that I got the opportunity to coach you. So I want to know, like, what helped you make the decision to go track instead of football, being at the school that you were at?
Honestly, so like the decision ultimately came down to injury. I got injured playing football the my junior year. So I ended up tearing my right meniscus. Um, I still ended up playing basketball and still ended up running track that same year. But going into my senior year, I was like, okay, I'm going to college. Let me pick, just one sport. So I was like, let's do track. Why not? And the rest is history. Honestly, it was really just that easy. It was like, let's just pick track. And
Yeah, I love that because I wanted to know that because again, even when I was recruiting you, people were like, now he was like a good football player too. You think you're gonna be able to get him? I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna do what I do. I don't have any magic, but I'm gonna do what I do. But I did wonder because you've had some great coaches along the way, a lot of male coaches along the way. So one of my kind of insecurities sometimes was going after athletes that I knew had some very stellar coaching, especially coming from like a football background. And with me being a female and really coming after you guys, it was a little bit like, let me see if I can, put some skin in the game. So what ultimately got you to a place that you were even comfortable signing with a female coach?
so honestly, like the whole gender aspect of coaching or in life in general hasn't or is never a big thing with me. Growing up, I did have a bunch of trauma, and that was at its core by men and women.
Hmm.
So I had like a bunch of distrust growing up. So going forward with my decision, it was all about how are you like as a person, like as like your character, whether whether you're a man or a woman, and what I can learn from you. And
Wow.
and as long as those like boxes are checked off, then that's really all that matters to me. All
Yeah.
that mattered to me.
So then why USC Upstate at the time then? Because you had other opportunities, and with that being kind of really kind of home for you, what still made you kind of okay with making that decision at that time?
So honestly, presently at that time, I didn't So there was the lack of confidence in myself and my ability to go to bigger schools.
Mm,
Um, and that is honestly still something that I have worked on. I'm still working on even to this day to like increase my confidence within myself. So that there was that. There was also, me not being exactly sure on the next level. Um, and at that time, I don't think I had exactly that many people looking at me. So like when you presented me the opportunity to run at the next level, that is what I wanted to do. And I wasn't exactly, I never have been too keen on school itself, but
yeah,
I still wanted to run track. So like, well, how can I kind of kill two birds with one stone while not at the same time putting too much academic pressure on myself as well.
yeah.
Um, so when all those kind of put in a bowl, UC Upstate was the answer.
Man, it doesn't surprise me either. Like, number one, that you're still very much in the sport. It doesn't surprise me that you do training on the side for other people, and the reason I say that is because you've always been a thinker. Like, I mean, you're thinking it through. You're a very visual person, so shout out to your sweatshirt because you've always had a vision for what your next step was. And so you and I only got to spend really a full season together because literally you made the decision to transfer out, and probably however many months later I was right behind you coming out of
Mhm.
coaching all together. So I knew there was some reasons. You and I never had any beef or friction or anything. So once you transferred out and went to another school, went to a HBCU, which shout out to HBCUs, and so you made that decision, and things happened along the way. So what were some of the things that you had to kind of press through in regards to your college career?
So like obviously there is the transfer to the new school, that you have to kind of get acclimated to, whether it is like the new schedule, new coaching, strength coaching classes, all of that entails. So you got to get used to like transferring, getting used to all of that first. And then I guess like for me, it was the whole, now that this is, like, what I want to do, what does that look like? What does training to be like, a professional athlete look like? Um, how exactly should I be training? And like, what also does that look like? Eating as well. And then obviously there's the whole mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, increasing basically your mental fortitude. That was something that was a bit hard because that was something that I did not have as mature as I thought I was at that age, and I probably was in comparison to other people my age. Um, I still had a very long ways to go, and considering with mostly because from 3 through 13 there were all those years of trauma, and
Mm,
then after that there is the aftershock of that. And with it happening while I was so young, I wasn't aware of all those aftershocks.
mm,
Um, so then obviously you don't get any younger, you just keep getting older. So the older I got, life in and of itself kept piling on issues as well. So you got these issues in the present, you got these unresolved issues in your past, and all that accumulating, um, it can push someone to the edge. And that was honestly something that I also had to overcome was, suicide.
okay.
So getting myself basically back from that, it was more of the reasons for that was one, mostly how long would it take for my family and my siblings to even find out that I was gone.
Wow.
That being the main and biggest reason, because with my younger siblings at least, I hadn't talked to them. They hadn't seen me since I was 11, and they were 4 and 6.
Wow.
I have a sister who's in California now. Up until me coming here, we had only seen each other 5 times throughout my entire life. I have another sister who I grew up with. Um, we were separated when I was 6 after my mom went to prison. I haven't seen her since then. Like we have been fortunate and lucky to be able to have iPhones to be able to communicate recently now. But before then I hadn't seen her at that point at all. So like that being on my mind as to when when they would find out that I was gone, and as well as me wanting to be me wanting to make my younger siblings proud of me, proud of their older brother, wanting them to see me on TV, knowing that I left. I had to leave for a reason.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of reasons that they didn't know, but the path that I set myself on was like was this one, and I
Yeah.
wanted them to see me and like know what their brother was doing, even if they couldn't be around me and they didn't see me and whatnot. So that definitely brought me back to the present, and from there, that went on to then go to nationals the next year, running sub 14 the next year. Um, and then that following year in 2019, I ended up tearing both my meniscus and my Achilles on my trail leg. And
Mm,
then the year right after that, there was the pandemic, and then graduating. So the biggest one was definitely the injuries.
yeah.
Um, Coming back from that, not only just getting back to normal, um, I guess human performance, to getting to back to where I was, and then to getting to like even past that to world elite level, to where I wanted to be at. So like that has always been one of those things where I had to like get my body back to. And even now with me being a trainer, one of the biggest things is that I get to have access to all this knowledge about how I can like create longevity within my career, with like how I can uh, do things for my body to where it can do whatever I want it to do at any given point in time.
Man.
So yeah,
Jay, like
it
you, man,
is.
I mean, you just talking and dropping nuggets and gems and inspiration and everything. While I mean, I asked you one question, and man, I could go so many different. Um, First of all, you use some words about trauma even when you were young, but then using the word injury when we talk about the sport,
Mhm.
and we can say that those words are really interchangeable when it comes to trauma and injury. And man, you were just so real with us just then about the trauma you experienced as a youth, and then still having that trauma, then having to carry it as you're trying to excel as a young man. So first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing that. Second of all, I want to say go you, like you just dropped it like it was nothing. And to see you on the other side of this, man, you are going to really be able to impact, and I know you already have a lot of people with I still got so much more to do.
Mhm.
And there's still so much more that I see for myself. And so this is taking me back to one of the times you reached out to me. Um, and I think it was before your injury. I'm not sure if it was before the injury, but I know I was out of coaching or whatever. And you guys were going through a coaching change, and like you randomly like hit me up. It was like, yo, coach, they got they got a position over here for a head coach. What are you doing? So the reason why I'm bringing that up is, why would you reach out to me after we were only together for that 1 year? You knew I was out of coaching. Um, you had dealt with a ton. So why did you reach out to me at that time? Like, hey, yo, I think you ought to look into this. Because basically at that point, you were recruiting me.
Oh, how the tables had turned. That was actually the year after my injury, so I was just getting back on the track from that, or I guess like the summer of that year,
Okay.
and we were needing a coach. And it just kind of goes back into the whole trust thing. There weren't too many people that I trusted,
Mm,
but I knew that when I trusted you, you were good at what you did, and the team would also benefit from that. And I strongly believe that the women team would definitely latch on and respond to what you were handling out. Even like you could like be be tough as well as get the message across that we needed to like work and like and everything like that. So those three things were like the main things that I was looking for, but really any coach. And you were actually one of the first ones that I have reached out to because you checked all those boxes.
right, right.
Because
I was like, he gonna mess around and make me go back into this. Oh, I love it. And
I
so
would have loved you to, honestly.
man, I love it. So, okay, take me to, and look, we may have to go a little bit longer because I'm just eating you up right now. So let me ask you this. So you made the transition and you left South Carolina. Now you're in San Francisco, California. These are two totally different worlds, especially when we're coming from like the upstate and Burns, kind of that country type of feel,
Oh
to
yes.
being in San Francisco. So you made that decision to make that move. What did that look like? Because you did that like during the pandemic.
So the main reason with that was basically I aside from the foster home, which was only basically like 5 years. I've never had like an actual home. I
Okay.
was separated from the one I was separated from one and then kicked out the other. Ended up in and out of the system growing up, and then wound up eventually in the foster home. So then graduating from college, I did not have that home to go back to. So I was like bouncing from place to place with a couple of my friends. Very, very fortunate that they were in my life and they were able to have that connection to be able to do that. The pandemic definitely made it a lot harder to not only like find a steady place, but find like a job within of itself.
Yeah.
So then eventually my sister was like, okay, there's this place I'm staying at, I'm moving out of. It's this big co-op house. They have like, a room you can rent out and everything like that. So let's try to get you there. That ended up basically transpiring. And then I ended up coming over here. Though the journey over was a bit interesting, mostly because I started out driving, and then ended up in jail for about a week for a bunch of traffic violations.
Hmm.
Getting out on a Greyhound, well, getting on a Greyhound, though leaving my car and basically my entire life within my car. Had 3 bags and a book bag. Got on a Greyhound to make this trip over here.
Wow.
So I came to California with no money, no job, and very limited resources. Started out, and obviously I needed money to pay the rent here. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do during the pandemic to make some money? Well, I can DoorDash. I was not prepared to DoorDash up and down the hills of San Francisco, and then also try to train at the same time. That was a
Wait,
journey.
wait, wait. You gotta back up right there. So we left. We didn't have a car, so you were going up and down the hills of San Francisco, door dashing in what?
A nice manual bike.
You was on
Um,
a bike?
a nice bike, and the bike I had earlier on, it wasn't it was great for the present time. Though when it came to gear shifting, it didn't have the ones on the handlebars. It was like a gear shift in the middle. It was very heavy. So like there were some hills, like the hills in San Francisco, some hills have hills,
Woo.
and they just get steeper like the higher they go. And it's just like, it was great training if you thought of it as such. But
Well,
you had to like trick your mind to think of
yeah,
it like that.
everybody wouldn't have been thinking about that training. Okay, I got you.
Oh, but I mean that's where I started out at. And then eventually I got a ice cream job at Swenson's Ice Cream. That definitely increased the financial income, and allowed me to work on my social skills and my social interactions. Because previously I'd only had like warehouse jobs and like things that put me in the back of places where I didn't have to do that. But going forward, because I wanted to be a professional athlete and to be around people, to be an iconic figure, I knew that eventually I would have to be interacting with people. So that's was something I needed to work on within myself. And then that led me to my next job, which was working a front desk at Crunch Fitness.
Okay.
That allowed me to then not only continue working on my focus of social interaction, but also practice being the face of a company before being the face of like some kind of sponsorship.
Yeah.
And then from while I was there, I was fortunate enough to get a a personal certification with the help of my fitness manager. So I trained there for a couple of weeks, well, a couple months, and then end up leaving. And now I am at a gym called Fitness SF, working as a personal trainer there.
Yeah.
Um, very two different environments, two different gyms, but honestly, I love chasing knowledge.
Yeah.
So the more knowledge I can accumulate, the better. Um, and well, to add on top of that, I also do coach out at Laney College. It's an all women's track team, which is just ironic in many ways. But the knowledge I gained from that is also interesting, and I will say I commend you for coaching because that is not an easy job. And with limited resources and coaching staff, it becomes harder.
It does. Oh my good dude. Okay, you just dropped so much. So a couple people I have said to them, I'm probably gonna have to come back and have you come back again after I finish this whole 15 for 15 because um, there's some richness in some of the things that you're sharing that I would want some more time with that because I think some of the things you're saying that we're kind of walking through because yeah we're quote unquote on a time frame here, but I don't want to just walk past those things. I want to
Mm.
come back and kind of dig a little bit deeper because ultimately we want people to be helped by just our time of us catching up. So I will say this: when you kept saying, I like to learn, I want to know more. You've always been like an inquisitive person. So I want to know too, like, is there a book coming out of you? Is there something else that's gonna come forth out of you? And I know we haven't discussed this, but I just feel like I need to ask that because you've got a story to tell.
I so that has been something that's been on my mind for like many years, even like throughout middle school and high school. But that's mostly because of my life experiences with the way that I carry myself, with
Yeah,
the way that I want my life to look, with how it's actually looking. All those things look differently.
yeah,
Um, and so I have like a lot of people who will be like they're impressed by what I do, or like they might not think that I've been through X, Y, and Z when I've been through X, Y, and Z and a different alphabet.
yeah,
Um,
right.
so and it's also because like I did grow up with like a lot of people who because in the system there is not much need to press forward for a better future. There is just don't die, don't end up in jail,
Yeah,
and that's a win, and actually that is a win, but there is much more to that. So like eventually I do want like my story to be told, whether it's by interview, whether it's by book, or a combination of both, just
yeah,
to be inspirational and to inspire. And the reason why, because one of my teammates at State actually asked me why I hadn't done it yet, even though I had already like accomplished a pretty good bit. And I was like, I mean, like I'm sure what I've done now is good, but unless I reach my goal of what I want my life to look like, then there will also be a kid like me who, in that audience, would be like, what you are saying is nice,
mhm,
but I need to see the final product. And if you don't have the final product, then it sounds nice, but that's it. And
yeah,
so I know that there because like I was that kid in that group and the audience listening, being like, okay, that sounds nice, but so I know there's a kid like me as well. So unless I have that final product, it won't really reach their ears like I wanted to. So
I love it. I mean, I figured like I've never asked you that, but I figured you probably done thought it through. And you're very strategic. You always have been. I think you always will be. And I think is very important because I love people that actually take the time to think. You know what I mean? And that's what you do. I mean, even throughout just us talking, you're gonna always take the time to think and think it through. And like you said, and see results. So even with us just bringing up a book, you're like, there's gonna be that kid that wants to see what the outcomes are. And guess what? You right. You have always been that guy. Like, well, what's the results, coach? What's gonna be the outcome? Okay, yeah, you said I had
Mm,
a good race, but I'm looking at this time. Or you said that I
mm,
did X, Y, and Z much better than last week, but here's the time, and I'm looking at you like, dude, but the win was 4.0. I don't care about that, and so
mm,
I love that drive in you that has not left. I pray that it never does, because you do have so much to offer. So I'm looking forward to those outcomes. I'm looking forward to the things that you're going to be doing over these next couple years as you continue to strive to reach your goals in the sport of track and field, which I'm fired up about. So thank you for giving me this time, but I'm hoping that we're going to come back together again and
yes.
have some time together. But is there anything final you want to say before we log off? But I'm just glad that I had you.
Oh my. Honestly, it not really. It's just been great. It's been
Yeah.
great. I haven't seen you ever talked in like so many years. It's
Oh
just
my
been
God.
great.
I'm telling you, and you got that same thing. And again, like I started off, if and when you do the book, you definitely got to do an audio book because I told you you've been had this same deep voice for a long time, so you might as well put it.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
We might have to do a interview where you get the full exclusive because so far no one has like the full details
Okay.
of my life.
Okay.
So
I would be honored to do that. I would be honored to do that. So I'm going to be reaching out. Um,
mm,
but I just again I want to thank you for jumping on with me. Thank you for giving me your time because, like I said, I know we're on a bit of a time difference here. But just know, man, I love you. If you need me, you can reach out anytime.
of course.
I'll see you soon.
I'll see you, coach.
All right. Hey, you guys, thank you again for hanging out with me and Jay. Man, y'all know he just gave me so much. And so we are going to definitely get back together in some form or fashion of whatever he's cool with or comfortable with, because I have to bring him back. As I started, this guy has always just had a lot of depth, a lot of maturity. And even just in him talking, you can kind of hear why. There's things that had him to where he had to grow up quick and had to figure things out for himself. And so there's a lot of people out there just like that. So I know that his story is going to resonate with a lot. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for coming on. We are looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. So please be sure to make sure that you log in. Thanks again.